Hey guys, Matt here, and today we're going to be doing a short video for SIMRIGS track tips touching on trail braking and the importance of trail braking. Essentially, trail braking is weighting the front of the car by shifting the weight over the front end, and by doing that you're lifting up and unweighting the rear of the car, which is almost inducing a little bit of slip, which is helping the rear to come around. As you've weighted that front end, the fronts are gripped up, helping the car to turn a bit better. I'll be going through a couple of things that I feel are important about trail braking and some points, and hopefully it can help you guys gain a couple of tenths. So guys, the initial point that I wanted to touch on was your initial braking. So point number one is initial braking. You want to get all that hard braking done in a straight line, utilizing all of the grip of the front of the car while it's not being used to turn the car. So you want to get all that braking done in a straight line. So point number two, guys, is not jumping off the brake aggressively at the end of the trail brake. You want to be really smooth all the way to the end of the brake application. If you're jumping off the brakes aggressively, you're going to induce understeer because you're taking that pressure off the front wheels and create an unstable car. So smooth all the way to the end of the brake application. So point number three, guys, is don't brake too hard while trail braking, as the fronts are already working on helping the car turn. They don't want to be helping to also slow the car down. You're going to be inducing understeer into the car too if you're doing that and braking too hard. So point number four, guys, is to work on your smoothness and the consistency of actually lowering that pressure on the brake pedal. You don't want any jerky or spasmodic inputs, as this is going to diminish the grip at the front of the car. You want to be really smooth all the way to the end of the brake application. As you can see on the input graph, you want a nice slow decline in brake pressure, and you don't want what's going to happen in the next clip. So guys, the fifth and final point is to practice. Trail braking can be tricky at first because with trail braking, what you're doing, you're actually unweighting the rear of the car to help you turn in. So at first it can be difficult and you may be losing the rear of the car and spinning out, but that's what practice is for. Go into a test session, work on your trail braking, work on that consistency and that smoothness all the way to the end of the brake application, and work on understanding the feeling of the car that you like to use and how it feels with that unweighted rear end. As I said at the start, with that unweighted rear, you may find yourself spinning out, but just work on it. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of practice to understand the way that your car behaves and the way it's going to behave under trail braking. In the end, trail braking will help you be faster, so that little bit of unsettledness in the rear is a necessary evil. It's just something you have to practice with and something you have to learn to deal with. So just recapping, guys, touching on the 5 points. The first point we touched on was that initial brake. Remember, we want to get all of that hard initial braking done in a straight line where the tires can really just focus on helping to get the car stopped and nothing else. Secondly, we don't want to be aggressive when we're ending that trail brake. We want to be smooth all the way to the end of the brake application. As you can see on my input data, you want it to be like a nice smooth decline all the way to the end without any sort of bobbles and increases in the data line. Third, we don't want to be braking too hard when we're trail braking. The front and the tires are already working on helping the car turn. We don't want to add any extra stress by braking too hard, inducing understeer into the car. Fourth, we wanted to work on smoothness and consistency while we're lowering that brake pressure. So in that little video that I had for point number 4, we don't want that input to be up and down, really spasmodic. We want it to be nice and smooth because we don't want any of those jerky or spasmodic inputs disturbing any of that front grip. And finally, the 5th point was practice. Really important to understand how the car feels with that unweighted rear. Again, when you're new to trail braking, you may be losing the rear end of the car because it does become unweighted, but that's what practice is for. So do your best in practice, just some private sessions, the car that you like to use the most, and use that to help you get to grips with trail braking and also understand trail braking in your chosen car. I hope I've helped you out today, guys. I hope I can gain you guys a couple of tenths in your chosen races and your chosen series, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time for SIMRIGS track tips.